The Bassmaster Classic is the Super Bowl of bass fishing, and it's an aspiring dream that every bass angler has. That's where we try and get to. That's why we get up every morning when it's raining, snow, and wind blowing 100 to get out there to have a chance to go fish the Bassmaster Classic. You know, you see all these fans and kids that go to the expos and go to the weigh-ins, and every kid in those stands probably is dreaming about being on that stage. And for me to be able to walk across that stage, you know, it's hard to comprehend. What it means to me is, it means the world, truthfully, because bass fishing is my world. You know, it's how I make a living. It's what I'm addicted to. I think about it every day. And, you know, as a bass fishing angler, that's the tournament that you always want to get to. All I wanted to do as a kid growing up was compete and fish the Bassmaster Classic. And not to just fish it, but to win it. Why bass fishing? It's just something that I grew up doing. You know, I got a passion for it real early in life. My dad and my granddad took me fishing, you know, when I was 5 or 6 years old. And, you know, I can't really remember. Everybody says I can remember the first bass I caught. I can't really remember it, but I can remember like just wanting to go over and over and over again after I started going a little bit. And it just, I don't know, it became real addicting to me. Basically, I got into tournament fishing by my dad taking me, I believe I was like 5 or 6, and we would fish, you know, team tournaments on the Coosa River. I mean, that's pretty much where I grew up, from one end to the other. And, you know, I have to owe a lot to him, because, I mean, obviously he didn't have to take me, and I know I was probably a pain in the butt half the time, or probably most of the time, but, you know, him being patient with me really means a lot, and it's probably why I'm standing here today, truthfully, because, I mean, he really taught me everything basic-wise about bass fishing and tournament fishing in general. So, like, I was around 22 or 23 years old, and I think it was like 2017, I decided to fish the Opens and the Costa Series at the time, just to be able to, you know, fish a little bit bigger league tournaments in the region, not really more locally. And, you know, I was able to be pretty successful, and, you know, I actually qualified to fish the FLW Tour at the time, fished there for 2 years, and then fast forward to 2019, you know, they came back out with the Opens with the format of win and you're in, and basically what that means is if you win one of the Opens, you get to go to the Bassmaster Classic, which is, you know, the biggest tournament in bass fishing. That's where everybody wants to get to. So that was really the main reason in me, you know, getting into the Opens in that 2019 season. And it really wasn't until like the third tournament of the year that it really became a realization that I was gonna, or have a chance to make the elites. I had done good in the previous 2 tournaments, but it never really clicked to me like, hey, you might qualify for the elites, until day 1 of that third event. And I had like people call me after weigh-in, because I was leading that event, and everybody was like, dude, you're like in second in the points. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, you're going to have a chance to make the elite series. And it kind of really set in now, or then, that it was going to be like a legit chance to, you know, make the elites and, you know, extend my career into something that I've always wanted to do as a kid. My main goal in 2019, you know, fishing the Opens, was to, you know, try and qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. And, you know, because that was my main thing going into the season. I was like, if I can just have one good tournament and have a chance to win, you know, you're going to make the Classic. And, you know, it's every angler's dream to fish the Bassmaster Classic. After qualifying for the Elite Series, it kind of really set in when I had to start doing a few interviews and, you know, talking to people, and I was having to put that Bassmaster Elite Series Pro beside my name. And just, you know, hearing that and saying that and seeing it written on paper was just a dream come true as a kid. But with that, I knew it was going to bring a whole different caliber of anglers I was going to be competing against. You know, these guys are going to be top of the line, you know, some of the best in the world. And I knew I was going to have to step my game up. I was going to have to work harder. It was going to come with a lot of responsibility. It was going to have a lot more responsibility sponsorship wise. So I just knew I had to get myself mentally prepared for that going into my rookie season. What it meant to win, you know, my first elite event at Neely Henry in front of my home crowd, you know, it was a really surreal moment. It just, for it to all come to fruition right there in front of everybody, just for how much time I've spent on that lake, all the tournaments I fished with family and friends, you know, it just, I can remember my parents taking me up there, you know, at 12 or 13 years old, where I could operate a boat but couldn't drive a truck. You know, they would come drop me off at in that section of the river and come back and get me at dark, and I would just fish, and I could just remember all those emotions even into that final day when things weren't going real well. And for that day to start as bad as it did and then end up, you know, obviously with me being able to win, it was just the good Lord was looking out for me, and it was my time to win. Hey, it's kind of a blur, like holding that blue trophy up after, you know, he called the weight out. I knew, it's a funny deal because I knew what I had on my scales, and when I was walking up there, there was a little like doubt in the back of my mind. I'm like, there's always a chance mine were off, and it was so close. I knew it could be, if it was within a pound, like, you know, Paul's going to win. But once he called out, or I actually saw it flash on the screen, it kind of went blurry for a minute. I don't really remember. I know Riley was the first one on the stage after Lisa handed me the trophy, and I can just remember her handing me that trophy, and I was like, man, this thing's a lot heavier than I thought it was. And all I could remember walking out to the end, I had it up like where everybody picks it up, and I couldn't see because I had tears puddled up in my glasses, and I couldn't move my glasses. I was like, please God, don't walk off the end of this thing, because like the trophy will break, I'll break, won't nobody forget it. But evidently I stopped, you know, good enough, and I got the trophy down and was able to, you know, clean up where I could see, and Riley come out there. And from that point on, you know, I kind of remember stuff pretty good. But that little, you know, 5-second window went kind of blurry when I saw the weight flash on the screen.
And that means Springville, Alabama's Wes Logan is going to be taking home his first career Bassmaster Elite Series victory.
Fishing the Bassmaster Classic, what it means to me is, it means the world, truthfully, because bass fishing is my world. You know, it's how I make a living. It's what I'm addicted to. I think about it every day. And, you know, as a bass fishing angler, that's the tournament that you always want to get to. You know, you see all these fans and kids that go to the expos and go to the weigh-ins, and every kid in those stands probably is dreaming about being on that stage. And for me to be able to walk across that stage, you know, it's just it's hard to comprehend. But on the other side of it, I'm going to go into the tournament like it's just another tournament. I just may make a few gambles, like if I feel like I've got a deal going that I may only get 5 bites, but they'll be the 5 right ones. Like, I'm not going to be scared to go do that all day. And I mean, if you catch 2, that'll, you know, it is what it is. If you catch 5, you look like a hero. So, I mean, that's kind of my, you know, mindset going into it. I'm still going to practice the same, but I feel like instead of having a deal in a regular tournament where I know I can go catch 5, I'll go, if I've got a deal where I think if I get 5 bites, I'll have a big bag, I may lean more towards that instead of trying to salvage some points. You know, fishing the Classic, it's one of those, you either win or, you know, nobody remembers second place. So you're not really fishing for points. So you're not trying to, you know, I call it fish safe, you know, trying to figure out how to get a couple bites to survive the tournament. That's obviously not what you're going to go into. In this tournament, you're going to fish to win. But I feel like from a practice standpoint, I'm still going to practice the same. And just, if I want to gamble, or if I feel like I've got a situation where I can gamble, this would be the tournament where you would go do that, to where you may only get 5 bites a day, but they may be the right 5. 12-year-old Wes would probably say, try not to suck. Because you've got a golden opportunity in front of you. You know, you've worked hard for this, and you know, it's going to be gone a lot faster. It's taken a long time to get here, but I feel like it's going to go by really fast. So just knowing that, you know, take it all in. I don't want to take it for granted. I feel like that's one thing that younger me would say. Don't take the opportunity for granted, because you may not get the opportunity again. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have only fished a handful in their career, and they've been fishing, you know, a lot of years. So every chance I feel like I get to fish the Classic, I don't want to take it for granted. I feel like what'll be running through my mind, I want it to be, you know, all fishing related, but you know, there's probably going to be some emotions, you know, seeing all the fans and crowd and family at the takeoff, and just all the, you know, stuff that comes with the Classics. It's going to be hard to block that out, and I don't want to say I want to block it out, but just know that I've still got a job to do. That day one blast off, I've got 8 hours to go do my job, and I'm going to do everything I can to be focused on that. Rolling through the arena, you know, day one weigh-in is, you know, that's what I hear everybody talk about. All my, you know, few buddies that have fished the Classic, like, there's nothing like rolling through that curtain and, you know, that whole arena full of fans, and, you know, the music play and the lights are going crazy, and everybody's looking at you. Yeah, everybody's looking at us when we weigh in on the elite stage during the regular season, but there's not, you know, 50,000 people in there looking at you. So to be able to bring some bass in on day one in that kind of atmosphere, in that situation, would be, it's going to be very emotional, I imagine, and I'm really looking forward to it. My experience with Hartwell would be very, very little. I pre-practiced 2 days after Christmas, this past Christmas, and that's the only 2 times I've ever been on the body of water. But what I did feel like I saw in those 2 days was the lake is very healthy. The lake has a lot of fish in it, and I believe there's not many dead areas of the lake from what I can see from the 2 days that I spent on it. And I know that's not a lot of time, especially not a lot of time compared to other anglers in the field, but I feel like it could set up, you know, it could set up good for me, just depending. It's a lot of weather permitting from what I can tell. Going into this, you know, the Classic, this event, all the Humminbird stuff that's really going to be a key, I feel like, is obviously the brand new Mega Live. There's going to be a lot of deep fish, it's a herring lake, so these fish, you know, chase herring around, a lot of suspended fish. So Live is going to be real key, a big player for sure. 360, I feel like, is going to play a little bit from a, you know, rock pile standpoint, seeing what kind of rock is on the bank, maybe on a long point or something like that. A few brush piles, cane piles, stuff like that. You'll be able to locate those good with side imaging and 360. And spot lock, you know, being offshore like that, I'm a real big believer in spot lock. It keeps you, it lets you be able to take your time on stuff and not get you off where you need to be, where you can stand back up and just, you know, make a few casts. You know, knowing I'm about to fish my first Bassmaster Classic in a few weeks, you know, the excitement literally builds every day. Like at some point during each day for the past, probably since I've qualified, I've thought something about the Classic, like, hey, I may need to try this, I may need to look in this bait, maybe I need to do this, or preparation this way. So it's literally always on my mind, even though we've got 2 tournaments coming up here in Florida, you know, and I've got to be focused for those because it's going to be the start for a new year, and you know, realistically qualifying for the next Classic, but it's always in the back of my mind, you know, this Classic coming up. I want to do really well. I want to have a good showing and just, you know, have a really good overall experience for my first ever Classic. What would it mean to win the Classic? It would be life-changing, that's for sure. I feel like that's a light way to put it. You know, it kind of makes you all giddy for me to think about even having a chance to win it, just because I know what could come with it from a, you know, a career standpoint. I mean, basically it's a career, you know, it's a career tournament. If you win it, like, your career is pretty much set, and it's crazy that 3 days of fishing on a body of water could, you know, make that big of a difference. But I mean, that's the weight that the Bassmaster Classic holds.